Hi everyone, Olivia Reiner here with Jim Ozarski for Packers News. We're here to wrap up the Packers' loss to the LA Chargers, 26-11. It's their first loss, in 4 games now? Yep. It's been quite some time since their last loss, and they lost on the road in front of majority, I would say, Packers fans. Sure. Brutal loss for them. I think that they were only able to amass 184 net yards of offense. Meanwhile, one of the things that we saw coming into this game, the Chargers were struggling the last several games to get their run game going, and today they were able to do it while the Packers certainly looked like they're stalled. Yeah, it was worst offensive showing for Green Bay since week 1 in Chicago, and by yardage, a little worse than that season opener. Definitely a surprise. In that way, the Chargers came in with a top 10-ish defense. Good pass rushers, but again, I don't think they were doing anything that Green Bay had not seen necessarily. Now, to your point about Los Angeles and their run game, Mike Pettine kind of forecasted this when Ken Wisenhunt got fired, right? He's like, Anthony Lynn, Shane Steichen, they're going to run the ball, and that's what they did. And I guess it has showed yet again that this run defense for Green Bay has not worked. And I guess what maybe they'll tell you, Olivia, is, well, they still had huge chunk plays through the air. And maybe that set up some of that stuff. But overall, I would say this was just as concerning a loss, if you will, as much as the Philadelphia one. Maybe more so because you saw the offense really sputter for the first time. Mm-hmm. The offense, not just the skill players were quiet, but I think a lot of it came down to the performance of the offensive line, and especially some of those the false start penalties. Right. There were several of those all along the offensive line that ultimately held the Packers back and took away yardage from them, and they were put in scenarios where they could not even get close to a conversion of any sort. I think they were 2 for 9 on. Yeah, 2 for 10 on third down. Okay, so 20%, good math there. Yeah. That is not going to win you a football game. No, and it's and again, it goes back to week 1 in Chicago and maybe those first couple weeks, Olivia, where they were stuck in those 2nd and 15s, the 3rd and 11s, that frankly anyone would have difficulty converting. The Packers had just done a much better job staying out of those situations the last 5 weeks. A little surprising because, it was a pro-Packers crowd, but also it wasn't the Lambeau crowd in the sense that it was loud. Even when the Packers were on offense, people were excited. And the Chargers, frankly, are used to this environment, and they clearly showed that. Absolutely. And I think we'll get to some of your questions, guys, over on Facebook in just a second. But I think you look at this team and what they've been able to build upon over the last couple of weeks. That third down conversion percentage went up for a period of time in the last couple of games. Nathaniel Hackett just a few months ago told us that his benchmark for a playoff caliber team is to hit that 40% average on the third down conversions, and the team was nowhere near that. And then they put on, I think, 260+ third down conversion rate games the last couple of games, and then boom, right back down 20%. That's tough, and that creates issues when you're in those 3rd and longs, where then the edge rushers can get after Aaron Rodgers a little bit. And for as good as David Bakhtiari, Brian Bulaga are, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram are also very good. And they're a little different type of rusher than I would say Everson Griffin or Danielle Hunter that they saw earlier. Probably more akin to Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. I think it was just one of those days for those guys. Yeah, you guys are certainly airing your concerns in the comments here. Much appreciated. Thanks for joining. This is the first time since Philadelphia, but even that game against Philadelphia, it was closer. It felt a little bit more competitive. The Chargers beat them up today. Oh yeah, that was definitely, I think Philadelphia might have put a 30 spot on this defense, but today felt a lot different all the way around. Special teams breakdowns, a block punt leads to a touchdown, and offsides on a field goal.
Anthony Lynn says, forget it, let's go for a score. 14 points off special teams miscues. So, you had all three phases breaking down to some degree today.
Mm-hmm. John over on Facebook points out, the time of possession differential between the two teams. I've got the number right here. So the Packers possession 24 minutes and 9 seconds. The Chargers possession 35 minutes and 51 seconds. Man, what a difference there. What can that do to a team? What kind of advantage is that?
Yeah, especially 79 degrees at kickoff. It wasn't super hot, but it's not the 38 that the Packers left Lambeau in. So you factor that time of possession and also this whole Packers bend don't break, they're not in till they're in mantra kind of worked. 12-0. And then eventually I think if you just run that many plays, you're going to get beat up. It's the National Football League. And that sort of 11-minute differential there, Olivia, I think it showed on the scoreboard.
We can rattle off a lot of numbers and a lot of stats, and we will. But for the most part, not good. A lot of these numbers you can take a look at. it's not pointing in favor of the Packers, obviously. But Andy in the comments here says he's not worried at all. At what point, 7-2.
Right.
Just saying that out loud, certainly.
Right.
The Packers are winning. They've got a predominantly winning record so far. But to lose this game on the road in LA, what do you anticipate? How do they respond to that?
Yeah, well, again, it's the first time during the year that we saw Matt LaFleur and Nathaniel Hackett matched as coaches. After that week one thing, I think Matt LaFleur has done a good job game planning for defenses, and Gus Bradley got the better of him today. And I'm sure the Packers will say, look, a lot of those penalties, self-inflicted wounds, created some of their issues. But so going forward, I like to see, obviously, the response next week against a Panthers team that, won again this week. I would say, to look at offensively, not just how LaFleur responds, but also we've seen coordinators last 2 weeks, Olivia, go the other way with Rodgers. And for about 4 or 5 weeks, teams just rushed for, didn't blitz, let them kind of sit back there. These last couple weeks, Chargers may not have blitzed very often, but they definitely were able to bring more pressure, different looks. I think Melvin Ingram moved around a little bit. I know that his first sack was over Billy Turner. So I'm curious to see how other teams continue to build off what the Chiefs and now the Chargers have shown on film in terms of attacking the Packers' offensive line.
So Matt says that maybe the Packers hit the LA night spots, but the words that some of the guys used after the game, Davante Adams called the Packers sluggish.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers said that the team lacked focus throughout the entire game. Is it just the fatigue of travel, of flying in late on a Friday and having a couple days here in LA? LA is not Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, these guys have a pretty strict curfew. It's a pretty strict bed check. So there's the old days of true rabble rousing on the road. That doesn't really happen anymore. So no, I look, they traveled, they got out here early for the time adjustment, the daylight savings. All that stuff at the end of the day maybe factors into some of it. Honestly, Olivia, I just think the Chargers played better and beat them up. I don't think there's any external partying, sleeping, not doing one or the other. It's just, I think the Chargers beat them up.
Yeah, and that's allowed to be the answer sometimes.
Which is not what I know sometimes you want to hear, but I just think that's what it looked like.
Yeah, brutal across all three phases. I will say maybe the lone bright spot, if you even want to call it that, among this entire game that stands out to me is Traymon Smith's 40-yard punt, or he was down, kick return. He was down at the 40. I don't remember exactly where he fielded, but hey, that's got to be one of the longest returns.
It is. That's
a long
first
time.
Explosive play on kick returns this year, and it set up Mason Crosby's 54-yard field goal. So that was the highlight. I know the Packers moved it down the field, scored a touchdown, got the 2-point. Obviously, the game had changed at that point, the way Los Angeles played defense. But yeah, look, they kicked it short. Trey Smith wanted that, and he said they were a block away from having great returns or maybe a touchdown. So we'll see how they build off this.
So Davante Adams played in this game for the first time since he sustained his turf toe injury week 4 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian thinks that maybe Davante Adams coming back to this game was the Packers' problem on offense. Mixing in Davante Adams into this offense, to me, coming into this seemed like obviously a benefit. It's Davante Adams, Pro Bowl receiver. You want him out there. You want to get the ball to Davante Adams.
The best player in your passing game, yeah.
And he technically was the best player in the passing game tonight. What sort of impact do you think he had on this offense?
Yeah, I mean, he only averaged 6 yards a catch. So aside from a couple of his third down receptions, there wasn't much of a game impact, unfortunately. But I mean, I would say it's a good step forward. He played the whole game. We didn't see him limping around. He didn't leave. So let's see, 1, 2. So 8 different Packers saw targets. 6 had catches. Now, what the change was, Olivia, though, Valdez-Scantling didn't have his first target of the third quarter. No catches. Jay Kumro, 2 targets, no catches. He'd probably say he should have had both. Geronimo Allison, 2 catches. He got banged up again with a hard collision. I think we saw this coming, that Davante Adams, when he returns, he's going to get more of the looks. That's what happened. 7 catches, 11 targets. The difference is those other guys now need to go 2 for 2, 1 for 1. The margin of error of them not catching the balls thrown to them, if they can catch them, is gone now. So I think that's what we saw today and what we'll have to look for going forward.
So let's flip it over to the defense. Sean said that Packers defense looked like same old, and that idea of the bend but don't break defense, kind of reminiscent of Packers defenses past. We saw that here quite a bit tonight. We saw several stops in the red zone, but successful field goal attempts. How do the Packers look at that? Is that good? Yes, successful stopping in the red zone, but they're still putting points on the board in some capacity.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine with the 4 field goals, but the punt block. Look, they were only off the field for 5 plays, and then San Diego. There we go. There's the first one. Los Angeles gets the ball at the Packers 27. They score a touchdown. They hold on their own 6-yard line, hold to a field goal. Special teams penalty. So there's 14 points in a 15-point loss. So, yes, same old. Hunter Henry, the tight end, the running backs, explosive plays. I mean, we've seen this pretty much since week 2. I think most teams would say we should win. If you can hold a team to 21-ish points, and that's where about they were at before that last field goal or that last touchdown. So I think we'll hear more of the same this next week, Olivia.
Yeah.
Eliminate the big plays. Cover a tight end. They haven't fixed that stuff yet, though.
No, it's a lot of the same narratives, but in this game in particular, it didn't work out. They weren't able to.
Right. The offense didn't play complementary football. Special teams didn't play complementary football. That's been the difference. The last 5 weeks, I think, the Packers have allowed 25 points a game, 26 points here. So the difference is special teams errors leads to points. No turnovers. Kevin King almost had one. Jair Alexander almost had one. I think there was a fumble that popped out that wasn't a fumble, but it was close, right? So that was, again, something that hadn't gone the Packers' way, which through 7 wins had.
Yeah, so we've got Mark in here saying, good luck stopping the run next week. When you look ahead to Carolina and the rushing attack that they possess, and you look at what the run defense did here tonight, allowing the Chargers one of their best rushing performances since the very beginning of their season. How can you have any optimism that they can handle the Panthers next week?
I think there's always a chance to fix something. We'll probably get a better idea of what that is in San Francisco after the bye week. Christian McCaffrey, to me, is in that top 5 category of an MVP caliber player. And I don't know what they're going to do, to be honest. I don't. I mean, I think, you can spy him maybe with a safety in coverage because you know he's going to catch the ball. But in terms of running it, if I had the answer, I think Mike Pettine might cut me a check. And I don't. Maybe I should find one.
Yeah.
Because I'd take that check.
I'm sure you would.
The holidays are coming.
It's true. Time to get gifts for people.
Right.
You got to save up.
So maybe I can give Mike Pettine a gift. No, I don't. Honestly, I don't know. And maybe, I think if they can't fix it heading into San Francisco, who's also going to pound the ball on the ground, then we might have to say they can't fix it, and the bend don't break thing is really what this defense is.
Yes. So Flo says or asks, with Jay Sternberger back, is it time to cut Jimmy Graham? The Packers are not cutting Jimmy Graham. No, it's not happening.
No, and in case people were wondering, Jay Sternberger ran out on the field for one play. You astutely saw it and tweeted it, and then there was a penalty, and then they took him off the field. Jay Sternberger, I think, was definitely a just-in-case situation today. Robert Pettine, they figured out that he couldn't go after the walkthroughs out here in L.A., and so we'll see what Sternberger can do, if anything, in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, on that play where Jay Sternberger did run out onto the field, he was with Mercedes Lewis and Jimmy Graham, so it was a 3 tight end set.
Yep.
What on earth could that have been?
Yeah, I mean, probably a run play, right?
I mean, they want the blockers out there, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff. Maybe we'll get to see it one day. I would love to see it. We've seen lots of 2 tight end sets, but no 3 tight ends.
They haven't run that personnel very often. Usually it's a run play, but Sternberger is the more athletic of the 3. One would think he'd be more of the receiving threat in that type of personnel package.
Yes. David says to your response there that the Packers have been fixing something since 2011. Does it really take that long to fix something?
Well, look, Mike Pettine has said this. I think the way he phrases it is, you can get to Miami far quicker by flying than you can by walking. And what he means is, teams beat you in this league by throwing the ball. And his focus, his main objective, is to not let teams beat him through the air. Ground game is going to give up some yards. I think right now the issue is too many explosive plays through the air, right? And that's exacerbating the issues on the ground. Because if you can't get off the field on 3rd and 6 because you're giving up 8-yard throws, 10-yard, 15-yard throws, then the run game becomes far more effective. So right now, I think Mike Pettine will probably focus more on fixing those explosive plays through the air and just trying to do a little better job on the ground. That's just my guess.
But ultimately for the Chargers, their offensive attack just in general was pretty balanced.
Very efficient.
Very balanced. So you got 11 rushing first downs, 13 passing first downs. I mean, there's
nearly a 50-50 split with dropbacks and handoffs.
Okay. So that's balance, the spitting image of balance, I would say. So, you know what? We've got a friend back here. Any final thoughts, Jim, heading back home, back to Carolina before the bye?
Yeah, no, I honestly, I understand all the issues defensively that we have seen for 5-6 weeks. I think this is what this defense is. On a good day, they're going to get a turnover or 2 and maybe give up 21 to 23 points. This offense needs to find solutions during the game when they shoot themselves in the foot. Their back on track stuff, Olivia, has never been properly fixed. I think they've had a couple better plays when they're like 7 to 12 yards out, right?
Yeah.
But when they're in this situation, again, what we saw in the first few weeks, they struggle.
Yeah.
So I think it's not back to the drawing board for Matt LaFleur, but it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, it's
when you're figured out a little bit offensively.
A lot of foot shooting went down in this game. I mean, again, going back to those 3rd downs, I think the best position they were 3rd and 1 at one point on 3rd down, and they had some sort of penalty that set them back to 3rd and 6, which they were still able to convert, but that was the closest they got to that sort of manageable situation. Exactly. So it's you can't have many of those 3rd and unmanageables, and that was more or less all they had tonight.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's we'll see.
Yeah.
It's a home game and then a bye. So I mean, they have still a lot to play for. It's a key NFC game. At the end of the day, this is an AFC road loss. Didn't look pretty, but next week at home, and that home schedule really shortens up after the bye. That's an important one.
Yeah, and if it makes you feel any better, if you can find any silver lining to this day, every other team in the NFC North lost their game today.
Okay, yeah, so
there you go.
It's like never even happened.
If I can tuck you in the bed right now, feeling good about something, that's your only thing you're getting. That's about it. So hope you can live with that, guys. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We will be back in Green Bay this week. We don't know exactly what the media availability situation is for tomorrow, but we'll definitely be back on Wednesday with yet another live stream to answer all of your questions as we prepare for the Carolina game on Sunday. We're home, back home. Love a good home game. Good to be back for a little bit after a couple long road trips.
Yeah.
We love traveling, but good to be back home for a little bit. Make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all of your Packers coverage. Follow us on social media for more Packers updates, and we will see